Paul Brown is one of 4 X-ray inspectors for the State Health Department. It's a tough job. He and his colleagues are responsible for almost 3,000 machines that are spread over 77 counties. Ideally, these inspectors would like to give each machine the once-over every 2 years. But there just aren't enough men on the job or days in the week. Sometimes the 2-year inspection stretches to 3 years. As far as the checkups go, it's the small towns that have the big violations. On an average, half of these machines either violate some state regulation or require a recommendation. That may seem like an alarming figure, but the State Health Department has never found it necessary to close down a machine. They have a theory of benefit versus risk that justifies it.
There is a potential hazard maybe involved to the patient from a unit that doesn't meet our regulations, but then again there may be a more dangerous problem if a patient needs an x-ray and one is not available.
But usually there's another facility which is nearby that is functioning well, and it depends on what the cost is. You know, the cost has to be passed on to the patient if you improve the machinery.
Dick Ewan has been improving x-ray machinery in this state for 39 years. He can relate to the problems of the rural practitioners. That's why Dick insists on keeping all this so-called junk at the company's office.
This has housing and this has lead inside.
It's actually a gold mine of spare parts for x-ray equipment forgotten by today's commercial industry. You see, the reason most rural areas have problems is because they can't get the service or parts they need.
Each unit is a little different. This tube was manufactured about 1939, and naturally they have many parts available for years. This is a new collimator that the state and federal government require. We took the adapter plate from that collimator and made it adapt to here. It wasn't built for it, but you notice we've got new holes here. So then we mount that on there and set the tube on there so it adapts just like it would be if it's a brand new unit.
A brand new machine like this one costs more than $60,000, so it's easy to see why not everyone can afford one. A majority of the rural facilities must settle for old machines with new repairs or adaptations, all of which take time to do. Perhaps that's why the State Health Department appears so lenient with its non-complying clients. Tomorrow, the future of X-rays. I'm Sherry Sellers.
Representatives of Continental Illinois were called before the House Banking Committee to explain why their bank bought more than $1 billion in loans generated by Penn Square Bank. They weren't alone. Michigan National and Seattle First lost hundreds of millions of dollars as well. They spent hours trying to explain their role in the Penn Square affair. But to Committee Chairman Fernand St. Germain, the whole thing could be summed up in a single sentence.
They hate to admit that they exercised poor judgment and that greed overcame common sense.
And these officers of Seattle First, along with the other banks, were asked about their practice of lending large sums to Penn Square Bank officers and directors, especially Bill Jennings and Bill Patterson. St. Germain was appalled.
We're not talking nickels and dimes. You're talking $2 million, $1.4 million. You're talking big, big numbers. It seems difficult to swallow the explanation. It's, you know, like I like my children to believe in Santa Claus, but they sort of want you to believe in Santa Claus with some of the explanations they give you here.
St. Germain runs the committee with a firm hand, and he plans to use his position to try to enact legislation so something like Penn Square doesn't happen again. Bill Ross, Action 4.
Just to support it.
It's been a long summer for Sammy Potter, but it's been even longer for the people who love him. While Sammy's been on the road seeking fame and fortune on two wheels, his stepmom Judy and his girlfriend Debbie Clark have been worried about him here in Oklahoma City. Today, the 20-year-old racer got to show us stuff for his biggest fans.
It's pretty good, so I don't worry as much as I used to, you know, with the experience he's gotten and so forth. But I still do worry a lot.
When we're not with him, we sit at home by the telephone, scared to death. When we are with him, we sit out here scared to death.
But Sammy Potter doesn't have time to think about who's in the grandstand. It's time to race. Time to prove once more he's one of the best young junior racers in the country. The 20-year-old rider is more concerned about the other racers and
making sure everything's just, you know, set and ready to go and being the first one in the turn, because usually if you're out front when you go in the first turn, it's easier to stay in front than it is to come from behind.
I'm not sure whether we need a lot more regulation. The oversight hearings that are being held now in regard to the Penn Square Bank collapse may shed a lot of light on that. There are many who feel that it wasn't a matter of not having the regulations, it was a matter that those who were enforcing the oversight in terms of regulatory agencies were not quick enough to take action, did not provide warnings in the right way. And I think we'll know more when Congressman Senator Germaine finishes his series of hearings. But
Officer Massey's dilemma began on August 10th, when the squad car he was driving collided with another vehicle, killing 2 members of an Edmond family. An internal police review board recommended that Massey be fired. 2 weeks later, criminal charges were filed, accusing Massey of negligent homicide. Today, District Attorney Bob Macy dropped those charges. The District Attorney's office says they have uncovered evidence that proves Massey's vehicle was not in proper running order.
It's appalling to me that the city garage would allow a car that's going to be used in emergency situations to be placed into service with defective brakes and worn-out tires. The 2 most critical things in an emergency situation are the steering and the brakes.
But according to City Manager Scott Johnson, Massey was not fired because of negligent homicide. Apparently, Massey was traveling at an excessive speed with his lights and sirens on at the time of the accident. Police procedure requires that all officers have permission from headquarters to run on a call with lights and sirens. The police term for this is Code 3. To get his job back, Massey must convince the city manager that he had permission or just cause to run Code 3 on the night of August 10th.
But his violation of departmental policy was not hitting a citizen in a car at an intersection. His violation of departmental policy was operation of that police vehicle, lights and siren engaged, in excess of the legal speed limit without permission to do so.
Kurt Autry, Action 4.
That's the issue. Understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Extra-strength Tylenol capsules have been pulled off Oklahoma's shelves for almost a week now. The company that makes the painkiller recommended that the bottles be removed. But now the McNeil Products Division is getting more than they asked for. Quail Plaza's drugstore and many others have taken the ban one step further. They've removed all Tylenol painkillers from their shelves, the tablets, extra strength and regular strength, as well as the liquids. Now the #1 seller is gone, shoppers are having to find a substitute.
People call in and say, what can we take in its place? Can we bring these back? What do we do with them? And why not?
Well, it's a good question. What do they take in its place?
We've been recommending Anacin 3, Percogesic, Daytril.
There are many Tylenol substitutes on the market, all of which are safe to use. But in order to choose the one best suited to your needs, you should call your doctor and get his recommendation. Sherry Sellers, Action 4. The information typed on prescription labels nowadays simply isn't enough, at least according to the American Medical Association. Patients are told how to take the medication and what the dosage is, but there's nothing concerning times the medicine shouldn't be used or possible side effects. Almost everyone in the medical profession agrees there's a need for extra information, but no one apparently wants to give it.
Right.
The idea was originally placed in the doctor's hands, but some feel it's now been passed on unfairly to the druggist.
The pharmacists themselves don't necessarily feel they should give it out. We're encumbered now with bookwork and paperwork, and this is going to involve a great deal of space and a great deal of time. And right now, most of us don't have that time or space. Several different functions could give it. The doctors would be an ideal spot for them.
This controversy has been going on for several years now. It appears the only way the leaflets will be available for the time being is on a voluntary basis. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
Dressed like astronauts on the moon, officials of the State Health Department began the job of finding out exactly what chemicals escaped during a Thursday morning fire. Working slowly, they placed similar liquids in 55-gallon drums. What they couldn't identify, they placed in sample bottles to be tested at the Health Department's lab. It was the first time Bob Cheta had ever done anything like this, but he didn't worry about the danger.
I'm just hunting for pesticides. We're trying to inventory what's there and what type of materials. And if there's anything we can't tell what it is, we're trying to get a sample of it so we can analyze and find out just what we do have in there.
While there was a lot of activity at the site, the surrounding streets were quiet. Midwest City fire officials are looking for the arsonists who set the fire. Yesterday, Fire Chief Tom Canfield warned residents in a 10-square block area of possible health hazards. After the warnings, most people left the neighborhood, but some people, like Debbie Marshall, decided to stay in their homes.
I feel fine. No sickness, no nothing.
Were you scared at all?
No, not really, because I seen other people walking around, so I figured it couldn't have been that bad if everybody, other people were still around.
And more people will be around tonight. At 3:30, Chief Canfield announced it was safe for the evacuees to return home. But it's still a good idea to leave the site of the fire to the men in the astronaut suits. Bill Ross, Action 4, in Midwest City.
There are several chemicals that go into Oklahoma City's water system before it reaches your home. One chemical other cities are running out of is fluoride. Just like in toothpaste, fluoride in your drinking water is there to help fight tooth decay. Officials here say Oklahoma City is using a form of fluoride that is plentiful, and they are not worried about a shortage.
No, we haven't, not for the type of fluoride which is solid that we use. We haven't had any problem at all. And, like I said, we just took our last delivery, so we should be fine.
Oklahoma City has been using fluoride in water since the early 1950s. It only cost the city $1.74 worth of fluoride to treat every 1 million gallons of water. The chemical is a natural element that is really not a necessity for water purification. It seems storing Oklahoma City's bags of fluoride is the biggest problem, but officials feel using fluoride is an extra bonus for customers who are doing all they can to stay away from the dentist. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
It's a rural area. Right now it's also a oil boom area. So, you know, I'm not trying to degrade any kind of people that work for oil companies because there's some fine people that do. There's also some people that come from out of state that have problems. And the only entertainment, really one of the things, the only entertainment they've got here, a lot of this is just, you know, they go to bars and drink. And when they drink and they get out and drive, they kill people.
Purcell, Oklahoma, the quarter-horse capital of the world. The parimutuel question last month brought to a head a controversy in this town between a preacher and his congregation. Well, today that controversy was ended when the preacher was fired. Purcell, Oklahoma, the quarter-horse capital of the world. The parimutuel question last month brought to a head a controversy in this town between a preacher and his congregation. Well, today that controversy was ended when the preacher was fired. The minister, Richard Yapel, allowed his name to be placed in a newspaper advertisement that endorsed parimutuel racing. That, according to Yapel, compounded an already existing problem with his congregation. Some members complained of Yapel's politicking long before the parimutuel controversy started. But Yapel was not without support today.
He's a wonderful man. He has a lot of foresight, and he knows what parimutuel can do for a state. He is, you know, originally from a parimutuel state, and he believes in it, you know, that it will do good for the state. He's made a lot of friends in the horse industry.
When the word was sent that Yapel was no longer the minister, many of the church youth were shocked and very upset.
You take care of me. We love you. We'll be around, so wherever we are, remember, we love you and you're welcome.
Yapel himself said he was not bitter, and he felt he did the right thing when expressing his opinion on controversial issues.
We say in opinion, liberty, in essentials, unity, and in all things, brotherly love. We encourage our people to be nonconformists. We think it's a healthy thing for society to disagree, but to do it agreeably, you see.
And that's what you were doing?
That's what I was doing.
So for now, Yapel plans to stay in Oklahoma, around the area he likes the best, horse country. Kevin Ogle, Action 4 in Purcell.
Wherever we are, remember, we love you and you're welcome.
Yapel plans to stay in Oklahoma, around the area he likes the best, horse country. Kevin Ogle, Action 4 in Purcell.
We love you. We'll be around, so wherever we are, remember, we love you.
To a large extent, living is an act of faith. When we go to a restaurant or store, we take for granted that our food or drink or medicine is perfectly safe. But now that sense of security has been shaken.
Tylenol capsules have been pulled off the shelves after 7 people took cyanide-laced pills. And there have been recent cases of acid-tainted eye drops. Next month, the Food and Drug Administration will issue rules requiring tamper-resistant packaging for non-prescription drugs. These regulations will go into effect in February. Pharmacist Karen Hall says tougher laws would be a good idea. A lot of drugs, such as Anacin, are packaged like Tylenol, just a snap-off top and cotton covering the tablets. Other products have twist-off caps that are even easier to open. Karen said customers are turning away from unsealed containers to sealed cough medicines to make sure they get a bottle that hasn't been opened before. For pills and tablets, she especially likes these individual packages called blister packs. Karen says stricter packaging rules will make over-the-counter drugs more expensive, but she says it's worth it.
It's going to cost more to put that around each bottle, and it's going to take probably another person on the job to do all of that, and it's going to add quite a bit to the price of the things. But I guess for a person's safety, it's worth it.
Of course, no one wants to pay more money for medicine, but it would be a small price to make sure you can walk away without any unwanted surprises. Bill Ross, Action 4 in Northwest Oklahoma City.
There you go.
Ford Motor Company has invested nearly $3 billion in cars and trucks for 1983. The most visible sign of the 1983 Fords is new aerodynamic styling. Ford says the styling will enable owners of their cars to get better mileage. Aerodynamics is one of 5 areas in which the company seeks industry leadership. The others are product, electronics, labor management relations, and quality. Ford says independent research shows the quality of their 1982 cars and light trucks averaged 12% better than General Motors and 24% better than Chrysler. But Ford Vice President Dale Compton doesn't want Chrysler to go out of business. He says it would be bad for the economy if America's 3rd largest car company went under. Compton also said the 2 key elements in selling cars are financing and quality product.
Obviously, one would like to have lower interest rates, and I think that is essential for a large recovery of the market. But the interest rates could be very small, and if the product isn't attractive to the customer, they're not going to buy it. So I think you have to have the product out there at the time that the interest rates start coming down.
When asked what car companies would still be around in 1990, Compton said he only knew of one, and he didn't mean General Motors. Bill Ross, Action 4 in downtown Oklahoma City.
Bob Macy is the man. Bob Macy is the one. We're looking for
Bob Macy is the incumbent. In his ads, he comes across as honest, sincere, and friendly. Wayne Wells is the challenger. In his ads, he comes across as honest, sincere, and friendly.
Let's elect a district attorney who's a fighter, Wayne Wells.
But Wells and Macy would never say the other one had any of those qualities. This ad appeared in the Daily Oklahoman on Monday. It's the culmination of months of bad feelings between Wells and Macy.
And all the time I'm hearing this, well, Wayne Wells is mafia. And finally, we tried in this ad to lay this whole thing to rest and say, look, Bob, this thing's a two-edged sword. If you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you back. And let's call a spade and get the facts out on the table. I don't think it's true. I certainly know that the rumors of my association are not true. And I hope that that's the way that the people read it.
I have never represented anybody and never would represent anybody associated with organized crime in any way. I have never told anyone that I thought that Wayne Wells was associated with organized crime. That statement absolutely is not true. I have expressed concern only in response to questions about his association with certain members of the defense bar.
One piece of advice. After this campaign is over, don't invite Bob Macy and Wayne Wells to the same dinner party. You see, these men just don't like each other. Bill Ross, Action 4 at the county courthouse.
Colgate, Oklahoma is a town with high unemployment, a high crime rate, and a low budget when it comes to funding the county sheriff's department. Cole County Sheriff F.R. Heck has been charged with manslaughter in connection with the September 23rd death of an inmate. Apparently, a trustee at the county jail was able to get into an evidence locker. He stole some whiskey and Quaaludes while the jail was left unattended. The trustee passed those stolen goods among the prisoners. But for one inmate, the combination of drugs and liquor was too much. When the jailer returned, 24-year-old Gary Gene Orr was face down in his cell, dead. Today, during a preliminary hearing for Sheriff Heck, testimony revealed that the county jail may have not been properly secured. That fact may send Sheriff Heck to jail. But Heck contends that his three-man staff is not large enough to adequately maintain the department. And until the sheriff's office gets more money, he says his hands are tied.
There's 526 square miles in this county. There's sheriff, undersheriff, and one deputy. That's all the field men we have. We're working of an average of 14 hours a day now. So, you know what we're up against.
In a few months, most folks will have forgotten the death of Gary Gene Orr here in Cole County. But for this county and many counties across the state, the basic problem will remain. Many rural sheriffs just don't have the money to adequately staff their departments. And until that problem is corrected, there may be more victims of the county sheriff system. In Colgate, Kurt Autry, Action 4.
Family. Been submitted on that. I have read those briefs.
But assuming that it is constitutional as to the school district, it does not extend to the employees, so they are not entitled to the statute. We also have the issue of the...
Have all of you had an opportunity to examine or make copies of those insurance policies? The Tort Claims Act is unconstitutional. That will eliminate many other issues, won't it? Should I decide to the contrary, that it is constitutional, then I would move to other issues that may be here. Isn't that a fair statement of it? Well, let's do first things first. I think first priority should be the issue of the constitutionality of the Oklahoma State Tort Claims Act.
Independent bankers from all around Oklahoma are meeting to discuss how they can best compete against other financial institutions. An independent bank is one that is locally owned and operated. The bankers talked about the importance of not becoming part of giant companies and keeping the image of the neighborhood bank alive. At a time when banks are merging to survive, independent bankers say they are holding their ground.
The community banks are more profitable and have consistently done better every year. And all of the statistics indicate that community banks in the country are better capitalized, they are more profitable, they're closer to their people, and they're more successful.
McCormick feels the community would be the big loser without independent banks, because in the long run, independent bankers say they'll be there despite what happens to the economy. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
Halloween isn't what it used to be, and I think they are to keep the kids off the street. If they're going to have to do it, I think they should just, set a particular time for it, when they should start and when they should quit, and an age limit. It scares me to death to think about Halloween coming around.
Incumbent F.G. Buck Buchanan has been campaigning hard for the District 2 County Commission seat. Buck says he's made some major improvements in the short time he's been commissioner, and he hopes that a second term will give him the time to complete the road and bridge repair projects that he has started. Buchanan is 63 years old. He is married and self-educated. Democrat Bill Bishop has also run an organized campaign with a lot of support personnel from the community. Bill has a long history of public service. He was a member of the City Council for 17 years as a representative of Ward 4. Bishop feels this experience will make him the kind of commissioner that District 2 needs. Bishop is 53 years old. He is married and self-educated. The ballot for the county commissioner race for District 2 will read F.G. Buck Buchanan and William Bishop. Kurt Autry, Action 4.